Your years of work were just family obligation, my father said. They gave my brother the veterinary clinic I helped save, while I got nothing but dismissal after years of sacrificing my future to keep it alive. People always asked if I was going to be a vet like my folks. My answer was always the same: someday. Not maybe, not I hope, just someday. Because in my mind, it was already settled. My name's Julian Myers. I'm 26 years old and grew up in a small town outside of Helena, Montana. Our family veterinary clinic sat right off the main road, surrounded by fields, fences, and too many barking dogs to count. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. When I was 12, while other kids were headed to baseball camp or spending hours glued to theirs boxes, I was knee-deep in mud trying to wrangle a sick goat or holding down a sedated sheep while Dad stitched a tear along its leg. My first real task was bottle-feeding a calf with pneumonia. She didn't make it, and I cried the entire ride home. But the next morning, I showed up again. In the morning after that, I guess I thought the more I did, the closer I got to proving I was worthy of what would eventually be mine. I thought it was all heading towards something. A future. A promise. Derek, my older brother, saw things differently. Where I was in the back scrubbing kennels and restocking surgical trays, Derek was out front chatting up clients and showing off new pamphlets he'd designed for our clinic's branding. "We need a modern image," he'd say while flashing that grin he always wore like armor. "Perception is everything." And somehow, that always landed better with Mom and Dad than me busting my ass in the barn at 6 a.m. Still, I didn't resent him back then. Not yet. I figured we were just wired differently. He had the charm. I had the calluses. I told myself both were needed. Things got real when I was 19. I'd been accepted to Montana State, Animal Science, Pre-Vet track. But the week before I left, a livestock virus started tearing through the valley. Some new strain nobody'd seen before. Suddenly, every rancher for 100 miles was calling us, desperate. Cattle with fevers. Horses refusing to eat. It hit hard and fast. Dad was working 18-hour days. Mom barely slept. We had 2 assistants quit within the same week, too scared to keep handling potentially contagious animals. So I deferred. Told myself it'd be 1 semester, just long enough to help stabilize things. But 1 semester turned into 2. Then a year. Then 3. I was 22 when I finally admitted I wasn't going back. Not because I didn't want to, but because the clinic needed me. My parents never asked me to stay. They just didn't tell me to go. And I took their silence as permission to keep sacrificing. I believed, deep down, that the more I gave up, the more I earned my place. Derek was still around. Sort of. He flew in for that big agriculture summit in Bozeman once. Gave a talk on veterinary practice in the social media age. Took a selfie with some regional senator. Posted it with a caption about next-gen animal care. Then flew back to Portland, where he worked for some pet wellness startup and called it Adjacent Experience. But I was the one elbow-deep in sick cows, fixing irrigation leaks, balancing the books when a payment bounced. I thought that would mean something. Back then, I still believed hard work was the currency that bought loyalty. And I was sure I'd been making deposits my whole life. By the time I hit 26, I'd been running the clinic more or less on my own for years. I knew every patient by name, every client by voice. I could predict which fences would blow down in a storm and which stock dogs would need anxiety meds during fireworks season. I was managing appointments, handling inventory, filling prescriptions, balancing the books, and still doing the dirty work, lancing abscesses, cleaning up after surgeries, and delivering breechfuls at 3 in the morning. We had one assistant, Maria, who stayed loyal through it all. She used to say, "Julian, if this place were a ship, you'd be the one patching leaks, steering it, and rowing all at once." I'd just smile and say, "Just keeping it afloat." What I didn't say was how much it was costing me. When the economy dipped and a couple of our big clients had to delay payments, I quietly transferred 50 grand from my personal savings to the clinic account. I told myself it was temporary, a bridge until things picked back up. But no one asked where the money came from. They just assumed things had stabilized. Not once did Mom or Dad ask if I needed help covering it. I guess they figured it was just part of being the reliable son. Then Derek came back. Not to stay, God forbid, but to consult. He swept in with his leather duffel and perfect hair, smelling like citrus and ambition. Talked about rebranding the clinic again. Wanted to install aromatherapy diffusers in the waiting room and redo the website with lifestyle imagery. When I asked what that meant, he said, "You know, animals and owners, but make it aspirational." He brought in a marketing team to film some promo footage, even staged a photo of himself standing beside a sedated border collie, hand on the dog's side like he'd done the procedure himself. That collie had been brought in with a twisted stomach. I stayed up with her all night, nursing her through recovery. But in the post, it was Derek's name listed in the caption. Derek Myers, veterinary innovator, making waves in rural medicine. I didn't say anything. I never did. Not when Mom raved about how good Derek is at thinking outside the box, not when Dad clapped him on the back and called him a real forward thinker. Meanwhile, I was the one sweating through surgeries, chasing escaped goats across muddy pastures, and staying late to file medical records by hand because the software Derek pushed us to buy kept crashing. I kept hoping stupidly that my parents would sit me down, finally acknowledge all I'd done, and talk succession planning. Maybe even offer a formal stake in the practice. Something, anything that said, "This will be yours one day." But all I got was another "thanks, honey," when I restocked syringes and a wave of Derek's cologne as he walked out the door to catch another flight. It felt like I was building a house they didn't even plan on letting me live in. It was a Saturday in late June when the family reunion/retirement barbecue happened. One of those big blowout summer gatherings where half the town shows up and everyone brings folding chairs, potato salad, and their best gossip. We hosted it out back behind the clinic, like we always did. The big oak trees offered some shade, and the barn made a decent windbreak when the afternoon gusts kicked up. I'd spent the whole morning stringing up lights, hauling out extra coolers, setting up tables. I even made my mom's famous sweet tea in the old glass dispenser she always forgot we had. Everyone was there, cousins I hadn't seen since high school, old clients with their grown kids, neighbors, former staff, people who still called me the little vet in training even though I'd been running the damn place for nearly a decade. It was supposed to be a celebration, and for the first hour or so, it felt like one. I was exhausted but proud. I looked around at all those people laughing and hugging, and I thought, this is it. This was the moment. Mom was finally retiring. Dad had already started stepping back. They'd say something tonight, something official, something about passing the torch. I kept waiting for it. When Derek showed up, half an hour late, of course, he made his usual scene. Aviator sunglasses, tailored button-down, hugging everyone like a politician. My cousin Melanie handed him a beer, and I caught him leaning against the barn, talking about rural health as a frontier market, whatever that meant. Then came the speech. Dad clinked his glass, and the chatter died down. He stood up on the makeshift platform we'd built from stacked hay bales, arm around Mom's shoulders. His voice boomed just like it used to in the exam room when a cow needed tranquilizing. "I just want to say thank you," he started. "To everyone here, to my amazing wife, and to my 2 sons." My heart kicked. We've built something special here over the past 35 years. And as we begin to step back, we're excited to see where the next generation will take us. I stood near the front, holding a beer I hadn't touched, half smiling. "Here it comes." Dad turned slightly toward Derek. "That's why, starting this fall, Derek will be taking full ownership of the practice." I blinked. There was a beat of silence, then applause, cheers, even a whistle. "His vision for the clinic's future is exactly what we need," Dad continued. "Innovation, marketing savvy, strategic growth. He's going to take this place to new heights." I stood frozen, the applause around me muffled like I was underwater. My ears buzzed. I felt my jaw clench without meaning to. Then someone patted my shoulder. "Aunt Marie, I think. Aren't you thrilled, honey? It's staying in the family." I turned to Dad as the crowd began to settle. "Wait, what?" He looked confused, like I'd asked him what day it was. "You said Derek's taking over?" "That's right," he said with a smile, like it was obvious. "What about me?" Dad's smile faltered for half a second. "Well, Julian, you've always been such a help around here, and we know you'll continue to be." "I've run the place for years," I said, my voice low but sharp. Dad gave a chuckle like he thought I was being modest. "You've been a great right hand. We couldn't have made it through some of those hard years without you." "You mean the outbreak? The payroll crisis? The drought that forced us to cut hours?" I could feel the blood rising in my face. "You said, back then, you said we were building something together." Derek stepped forward, hands raised like a politician diffusing tension. "Jules, come on. This is a good thing. Let's not make a scene." I turned to Mom. "Did you know?" She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Julian," Dad said gently, "we never made promises. You were helping out. You've always been the dependable one." That was when it hit me solid and cold. They never saw me as a partner, just a pair of hands that never stopped moving. Everyone else went back to their drinks and ribs. I stood there, alone in a crowd, humiliated in front of the very people who'd watched me grow up in that barn. I didn't say another word, but something in me broke wide open. I didn't stick around to help clean up after the barbecue, just walked away, left the folding chairs, the food trays, the half-empty drink coolers. Didn't even say goodbye. My place was a cramped one-bedroom apartment above the clinic. Technically, it used to be storage space, but I converted it myself during the rough years, added a kitchenette, patched the insulation, bought a used futon I never unfolded anymore. It smelled faintly of antiseptic and hay, no matter how many candles I lit. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, still in my jeans and boots, staring at the wall like it might offer answers. I didn't sleep. By morning, my phone had 3 unread texts from Mom. "Hey honey, hope you're feeling better. We didn't mean for it to feel like that. Derek has the skills to grow the business. We just thought it made the most sense." No apology, no explanation, just soft deflection and forced reason. Later that afternoon, I tried to talk to them. Mom answered the door of their house with that tight smile she always wore when things were tense. "Can we talk?" I asked. Of course, come in. But it wasn't a conversation. It was a rerun of every time they'd ever swept something under the rug. "We appreciate everything you've done," Dad said, avoiding eye contact. "I wasn't asking for a trophy," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "I wanted a chance. A steak." "Well, you've always been great with the animals," Mom said gently. "But Derek just has that spark. He sees the bigger picture." I stared at them, dumbfounded. "I gave you everything. I stayed when you needed me. I paid out of my own pocket to keep this place open." Dad sighed. "You're taking this too personally. It was a business decision." I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was pathetic. They wanted me to keep sacrificing, but never once saw me as someone worth investing in. That night, I called my godmother, Aunt Lydia. She'd always been the one who remembered my birthday and mailed cards with scratch-off lottery tickets. She listened quietly as I told her everything. When I finished, she said, "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I always hoped they'd see what they had in you." "Yeah," I muttered. "Me too." There was a long pause. "I wish I could fix it," she said softly. "But maybe it's time you stop waiting for them to hand you anything." When we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, the phone still in my hand. It was the first time I realized that my family never saw me as an equal. They saw me as convenient. And maybe it was time to stop proving myself to people who had already made up their minds. I didn't know what came next, but I knew it wouldn't be here. Not like this. A week later, I sat across from a woman named Rachel Corwin in the back booth of a diner off Highway 12. She wasn't what I expected. Mid-40s, sharp bob haircut, jeans and a blazer, zero tolerance for nonsense. She sipped her coffee black and read over the notes I'd brought like she was dissecting a legal case. "I'm not looking to sue," I said right away. "I just need a way out." Rachel looked up over the rim of her cup. "You want to build something, not burn it down." "Exactly." She nodded. "Then we build." I told her everything. About the clinic, the work, the money I put in, the hours, the burnout. About Derek sweeping in with his PowerPoint ideas and our parents treating it like strategy instead of betrayal. I handed her copies of the financial spreadsheets I'd kept, client invoices, my $50,000 transfer, even the weekend hours I logged during emergencies. Rachel didn't flinch. "You've got more than a case. You've got a foundation." She reached into her bag and pulled out a yellow notepad. "Here's what we're going to do. You're going to take everything you've learned and go where they can't follow." That's how the idea started. Mobile veterinary services weren't new. But out here, in Montana's far-flung ranchlands, there were entire counties with nothing but overworked techs and ancient trucks that broke down every other week. Most people couldn't drive hours just to get their livestock seen. And pet owners? They waited weeks. I could change that. A fully equipped trailer, field diagnostics, scheduled routes through remote areas. I'd bring the care to them. I spent nights building a name, Trail Vet, designed the logo myself. I bought a second-hand Ram truck and found a guy in Butte who sold me a used livestock trailer at half price after hearing my story. Rachel walked me through business licensing, startup costs, marketing strategy. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She also didn't doubt me once. "You've already proven you can run a clinic," she said one evening, flipping through my proposal draft. "The only difference is this time, no one gets to take it away from you." I started backing up my records, client lists, service notes, treatment plans, not to sabotage the clinic, but to preserve what I had built. Most of those clients had stayed with us because of me. I'd been the one kneeling in their barns, treating their cattle at midnight, checking on animals after hours with no extra charge. They trusted me, not Derek's slogans or our parents' fading goodwill. I gathered emails, old appointment logs, even thank you cards from clients that my mom used to tape on the break room fridge. I organized them into folders, saved copies on a cloud drive Rachel helped me set up. It wasn't revenge. It was protection. It was proof that I hadn't just been helping out. I'd been running the damn ship. Quietly, efficiently, alone. Rachel leaned back in her chair one night and said, "You're gonna scare the hell out of them when this takes off." I smiled for the first time in weeks. "Good," I said. "Let them feel what it's like to be left behind." The first few months of Trail Vet were rough, but they were mine. I kept my old apartment above the clinic while I got things moving. I'd wake up before sunrise, load the trailer with supplies, and hit the back roads. My routes took me deep into the country, places where mailboxes leaned sideways and cell service cut out halfway down the driveway. Farmers waved when they saw me coming, and word spread fast. It wasn't glamorous. Some days I'd treat a goat with a ruptured udder, then drive 2 hours to give a family's aging lab his final injection under a cottonwood tree. But the gratitude I saw on those faces, it filled something in me that the clinic never had. Within 6 weeks, I had 30 regular clients. By month 3, it was over 70. I designed a simple website. Rachel helped me write the content. Compassionate, convenient veterinary care for those who've been left behind. That tagline hit people in a way I didn't expect. My inbox filled with messages from folks thanking me for coming to them instead of making them beg for appointments. Meanwhile, the old clinic, it started to crack. Derek made changes fast. He cut low-income services, raised prices across the board, and fired Maria, our longest-serving tech, because he said she didn't align with the new vision. I heard about it from a client who used to bring her horses to us every spring. Now she was calling me. He said I needed a consultation just to get deworming advice, she told me, angry. You ever charge me for advice, Julian? I didn't even have to respond. That's when I checked the old shared cloud account, the one my dad had set up back when I was still managing our digital files. Somehow, they hadn't revoked my access. I knew it was probably an oversight, but what I found in there made my stomach drop. There were emails, dozens of them, between Derek and our parents, dated months before the barbecue. Subject lines like leadership transition plan and phase-out timeline for Julian. One message from Mom read, he'll take it hard, but it's better to rip off the Band-Aid. Derek had replied, he'll stay on doing the grunt work if we frame it right. We just can't let him think he's being passed over until it's done. I sat frozen, reading it again. They'd planned to erase me, to use me until the handoff was smooth, and then cast me aside like I'd never mattered. I backed up the files immediately. Rachel and I organized them into a secure folder. You have every right to bring this forward, she said. But my advice? Keep building. Let your success speak louder than any accusation. So I kept going. By fall, TrailVet had a waitlist. I hired a part-time tech and was planning a second route for the eastern counties. My phone rang constantly. Not just new clients, but old ones, too. People who used to come to the clinic now wanted me instead. One rancher told me flat out, you were the clinic. Always were. I didn't cry. But when I got back in the truck that night and shut the door, I sat there for a long time, my hands shaking. They tried to erase me, and all they'd done was clear the space for something better. I got the invitation in the mail like everyone else. Cream cardstock, gold trim, a photo of my parents standing in front of the clinic, arms crossed, flanked by Derek in one of his too tight sport coats. Celebrating 40 years of excellence, Myers Veterinary Clinic Community Open House. It was meant to be a legacy event, a big public thank you. Food trucks, speeches, client testimonials. An article in the town paper. Derek's fingerprints were all over it. I almost threw it away. But Rachel was the one who convinced me to go. Bring the receipts, she said, handing me the USB drive with the backed-up emails and files. Bring the story. You don't need to shout. Just let the truth sit in the air for once. So I showed up. Pressed shirt, clean jeans, new boots. I even trimmed my beard and brought a fresh batch of printed TrailVet business cards in my coat pocket. Rachel came with me, said she was curious to see the theatrical conclusion. She wore a black blazer and sunglasses and looked like every lawyer in a prestige drama. Derek's jaw visibly clenched when he saw us walk in. He tried to play it cool, came over with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. Hey, Julian, good to see you made it. I nodded. Wouldn't miss it. The place was packed. Past clients, a few vets from out of town, local press. They had a banner strung across the barn that said, "A vision for the future." I stood in the back and watched as my dad gave his speech. Same sturdy posture, same voice I used to admire. He talked about the early days, how the clinic started with nothing but a folding table and a dream. Mom stood beside him, smiling like she hadn't helped plan my erasure. Then came the real punch. We're proud to pass the torch, he said, placing a hand on Derek's shoulder, to someone who represents innovation, leadership, in the next great chapter of our family legacy. More applause. Cameras clicked. Derek beamed, and I walked forward, just calmly, through the crowd. A few heads turned. Someone whispered my name. My boots hit the plywood stage with a hollow thud, and the mic was still hot when I reached it. Sorry to interrupt, I said. I just wanted to say a few words. The silence was immediate. Even my dad didn't move, just blinked, mouth slightly open. I grew up here, I said, steady and calm, feeding animals before school, cleaning kennels, assisting with surgeries while my friends were off at summer camp. I was 12 when I started. I was 22 when I gave up college to save this place during the outbreak. No one interrupted. I've injected cattle in snowstorms, delivered foals in ditches, worked weekends and holidays without ever asking for more than acknowledgement. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the remote Rachel had given me. Behind me, the screen flickered on emails, one after another. Subject, transition plan. Let's not tell Julian yet. My mom's handwriting. Derek's comments. Strategizing my phase out like I was just an inconvenience. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I turned to them. This wasn't an accident. They planned it. They lied to me. Used me. And when I had nothing left to give, they gave my future away to someone who never wanted the hard parts. I glanced at Derek. He was pale now, lips tight. I'm not here to fight. I just wanted you all to see the truth. Then I reached into my jacket and pulled out a stack of trail vet cards. I walked the edge of the stage, handing them to people I knew, former clients, neighbors, even the mayor. I didn't disappear. I evolved. If you want care that shows up for you the way I always have, you know where to find me. I turned back to the mic one last time. You can erase someone from a plaque, from a family tree, but not from memory, not from history, and definitely not from the hearts of the people who know what real work looks like. I walked off that stage and didn't look back. Rachel met me at the edge of the crowd with a single raised eyebrow. Well, she said, smirking. That was subtle. I shrugged. I'm done being quiet. Behind me, the applause started slowly, tentative, awkward. But it grew. And Derek? He stood frozen, smile gone. Legacy, after all, doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to the one who earned it. I filmed the video in one take. No script, no fancy lighting. Just me, sitting on the tailgate of my truck at the edge of a pasture, sun dipping low behind the trees, Boone asleep beside me. The phone was propped on a toolbox and the wind kept rustling the mic. But I didn't care. Hey, I said, looking straight into the lens. My name's Julian Myers. I'm a vet, a business owner, and until recently, I was the guy who spent most of his life doing what he thought family expected of him. I paused, took a breath. For a long time, I gave everything I had to people who didn't see me. Not really. I cleaned up the messes. I filled the gaps. I stayed when it was easier to leave, thinking one day it would pay off, that there'd be a seat at the table, a pat on the back, some kind of sign that I belonged. I looked down at my hands, calloused, stained, steady, but that day never came. And when I finally asked why, they told me I was just helping out, just doing what I was supposed to. I looked back at the camera, so I walked away. I started something new, from the ground up. I took what I knew, what I'd earned, and I built TrailVet. And yeah, it was hard, but it was honest. Another beat of quiet. Then I leaned in just slightly. If you've ever been overlooked, used, pushed to the background while someone else took the credit, you're not alone. I see you, and I want you to hear this. You don't have to keep proving your worth to people who benefit from your silence. I smiled, not bitter, not angry, just done. Sometimes the best thing you can do is step back, build your own damn table, and invite people who treat you like you matter. I looked toward Boone, still snoozing, and then back to the lens. I used to think I had to earn a legacy. Turns out, I just had to stop waiting for permission. A pause. Then I gave a short nod. And if that resonates with you, maybe it's your time too. The video ended there. I hit upload. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't hoping anyone would clap, or agree, or even understand. I just wanted the truth to exist somewhere besides my own chest. And now it did.